What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a guide to the crafted skills in Divinity Original Sin 2. Now this guide is going to be covering how to make the crafted skills, some of the general rules around them, as well as giving a link to the actual full list of all available crafted skills in the game, because there's about 48, so I can't really go over every single one without this being a very long video. But there is a link down below in the description to the actual full list of crafted skills. So, to actually give some explanation here first, crafted skills are simply a combination of two separate skill books to form a new one. Now, these are actually abilities that you will see often boss enemies use in-game, such as Poisonous Skin, Venom Coating, Sparking Swings. However, these are not skills that you can just purchase from a vendor like you would in most cases. In order to get these skills and several others yourself, you have to combine skill books, which we have of course probably figured out by this point in the video. So, the actual rules for how this works are pretty straightforward. You can combine an elemental skill book with any other type of skill other than another elemental skill book. So, for instance, you can combine Pyromancer with Huntsman, or Pyromancer with Necromancy, or Pyromancer with Polymorph. What you can't do is combine Pyro with Aerothurge. It just won't give you anything. Now there are still a couple more rules beyond that though. For starters, the individual skill attached to the skill book does not matter outside of one thing. If the skill book you are using requires Source, you will get a different ability than the base combination. So for instance, if I were to use the Peace of Mind Pyromancer ability or the Fireball Pyromancer ability, it wouldn't matter. It's going to give me the same combined skill with whatever I use it. The main thing to keep in mind is whatever the actual base type of skill is, which in this case would be Pyromancer. However, if I use a source skill and combine it with another skill book, I get an upgraded version, typically, of the skill that I'm using. So if I were to combine Geomancer and Summoning, that typically gives you a poison infusion. However, if I combine either of those and one of them has a source requirement attached to it, I then get acid infusion, which will then cost source. It's worth mentioning that only one of the two skill books has to have the source requirement. There's no need for both of them to actually cost source. And then the last kind of rule surrounding the crafted skills is that skill books typically come with a requirement of a certain amount of points in that skill to both learn it and then cast it. So for instance, you can learn skills and then through something like a respec be unable to use them. Now that's especially important to keep in mind with crafted skills because the requirement becomes the requirement of each individual skill book. Now luckily this is a tier system and pretty easy to learn, but basically the produced skill book will have a point requirement which depends on the actual skill you make of each of the base combat abilities. So for instance, if you make that acid infusion I mentioned, acid infusion is going to require points in Geomancer as well as Summoning. Now, truth be told, just to give personal opinion, you don't need any of these skills. I've absolutely beaten Honor Mode without using any of them. I have builds for Honor Mode that use absolutely none of these. However, what they will do for you is if you're playing through the game multiple times, they will absolutely mix things up for you or lend themselves to new builds that require you to kind of move your skill points around. But the main reason you don't see these a lot is because oftentimes the combat abilities will require you to mix things that typically speaking wouldn't work well for a build. Now, not always by any means, you can definitely make builds around specific skills if you wanted to, but just because of kind of the min-maxing, that is to say, that kind of goes into a lot of these, you don't necessarily see a lot of them in use per se. But with that out of the way, guys, there you go. There is a guide to the crafted skills in Divinity Original Sin 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, help me out with all that YouTube jazz. But more than anything, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.